Hello and good morning, my creative friends. Dr. Minette Riordan here. This is Painting in Your PJs live with Minette with all of my crazy early morning lights here. And I am delighted to be here with you for another episode of Painting in Your PJs. Today is day 11 of 21 days of intuitive art. And I'm using our end of year self reflection prompts we created for our end of year self reflection kit. And the prompt that I chose for today is what brings you peace? What brings you peace? And I love this prompt, especially as we near the end of the year, because I don't know about you, it's a busy time of year. There's a lot going on, extra people in the house, all these different kinds of things. And when I think about what brings me peace, I also start to look ahead to the coming year. And I was doing a bunch of journaling in my morning pages this morning before I got on the call about celebrating what has gone really well this year, and then looking at the areas of my life that need a little amplification or support. And having my heart feel at peace is a big part of that journey for me. Good morning, Barbara. And that journey is spiritual, it's creative, and it involves and requires deep self reflection. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. My cats woke me up really early this morning, so I'm a little sleepy this morning. How's everybody else doing? If you're joining me live, welcome, welcome. I'm delighted that you're here. Got lots of glare going on this morning. And if you're watching the replay, thank you so much. Delighted that you're here as well. It really helps me when you stumble across my videos and you click that subscribe button or simply click the like button to let me know that you like what I'm sharing. It will help our channel continue to grow and me be able to continue to do this series that I certainly am loving so much. And I started Painting in Your PJs live a year ago in early December. And I'm amazed at my own consistency. As a creative, I love things that are new and different. And that says it's both meaningful and really fun for me. And if you're just popping into this series for the first time, this month in December, I am creating a circle journal, and it's 21 days of intuitive art and self reflection. There are videos showing me creating all of these pages so far. And I've been having a lot of fun with this project. I ended up really loving that page. And so this is my first signature, and I'm creating as I go, which normally I have a bound journal that I'm working in. And so I'm curious to see how it's going to end up, and it's a little bit of a different thinking process to work on individual pages. So I had a lot of fun a couple of days ago with this page as well, and with the wonderful Jane Goodall. And I love how, again, these pages are starting to come together and unfold. But my theme today is what brings me peace. And so I always like to capture at least a few words on my mixed media pages before I start adding all the different layers. And what brings me peace is knowing that my kids are happy and healthy. When my kids are upset, my heart hurts. Or when someone else in my family is struggling, that it's a struggle for me as well. And to deal with that struggle, I love walking in nature. I love quiet solitude in the mornings with my journal, watching sunsets and sunrises. I'm so sorry. I got a tickle in my throat this morning. My biggest challenge for being at peace in my own heart is quieting my busy mind. And I usually can do that through meditation, journaling, And deep rest, right? Deep rest, just sitting quietly, listening to music. Deep rest doesn't necessarily mean sleep for me, but it means having an absence of input and just being in a quiet, still space with myself, which I don't give myself permission to do that often. So as I start to really think about what do I want to be different as I'm going into 2024, I think this is such a powerful question to ask ourselves is what brings us peace, especially at this busy holiday season, and how can I create more of that? So for my page today, I want to focus on my connection to nature because I often find answers that I'm seeking and solace and opportunities for rest and reflection when I'm out in nature. And I have this really fun kids book of reusable stickers that I've been having a lot of fun with, but they're very shiny, so I apologize for the glare. And so I love cardinals, having lived in Texas for most of my life, or well, maybe half my life, I guess. I love cardinals. They're one of my favorite birds. We used to have them in our backyard when we lived in Plano. And so I want to do a page with this cardinal on it to celebrate the peace that I find connecting to nature. All right, so I'm going to move that out of the way for a minute, maybe. I have way too much stuff on my craft table this morning, but I'm sure no one else has that problem. And I'm curious as you're listening, if you're joining me live, what brings you peace? Or if you're watching the replay, what brings you peace? And I'd love for you to share that in the chat or in the comments in the replay. And I'm going to get some gesso, I think, down over the top of this and start to build up some layers to put my cardinal on. And I'm thinking I want a pretty simple page. It doesn't need to be an extravagant page. I so often get down here and I start working on these little pages and spending so much time. Hi, Carol from Arizona. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining me live this morning. And one of the other things that brings me peace, and I didn't write down, but maybe I should have, is simplicity, right? When things get really complex, they get really challenging, they get really overwhelming. So simplicity is something else that brings me peace. So Carol, our prompt for this morning is what brings you peace? What brings you peace? All right, so I'm thinking about in our backyard at our house in Plano, Texas, there was a beautiful oak tree that was often full of birds. Yes, me too, Carol. Playing in my art room brings me peace. There was a beautiful oak tree in my backyard in Plano, and the cardinals would often visit, and cedar waxwings, and so many other beautiful birds. But I can't help but thinking this morning also about a peace sign. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, and I always draw peace signs upside down. Don't ask me why. So I'm going to look up a picture of a peace sign because I always want to draw them going the wrong direction. And I'm wondering how I can integrate that cardinal sticker with a peace sign. So I'm going to get this dry. So my brain is moving a little slowly this morning, so it might take me a minute to get going here. And I might want to do a little color mixing, like I've been using a lot of earthy tones in this journal so far, but I'm wondering if my alizarin crimson and my turquoise blue might make an interesting purple, a purple peace sign to go with my red cardinal, or maybe a yellow peace sign and a purple background. So I'm going to play with a little color mixing this morning. Hola Blanca, ¿cómo estás esta mañana? That was probably way more paint than I needed for these tiny little pages. And as we think about what brings us peace, I think it's equally important to consider in your journaling That's funny, it's kind of a gray, all right, gray blue. That's not coming out purple at all yet, so apparently we're going to need a lot more red. So I picked a really interesting palette, and sometimes it's can be challenging to get the colors that you want when you're working with a palette, but that's part of that exploration and experimentation that's so important, is to see how colors react. So where I was going with my thought before I got completely distracted by trying to mix purple. Good morning, Tori. Go to for peace is your porch swing on our deck. I've loved swinging since I was little. I love it. I love it. Sitting beside water, ocean, rivers, lakes brings me peace. Okay, it is so interesting. It's really challenging. So purple is really one of the hardest colors to mix, and I'm going to end up with a lot of extra on my palette here as I'm playing with this. Trying to get closer to a color that I want for the background. And I want to cheat and grab an actual purple out of my stash, but I'm not going to. So this is kind of a funky gray purple, so it's good to know that that turquoise blue and the alizarin crimson create a really interesting sort of gray purple. And I still haven't finished my thought. I have not forgotten. So not only is it incredibly valuable to consider what brings you peace, but also to pay attention to the things that destroy peace or create anxiety and upset. Disturb is the word I'm looking for. What disturbs peace? You know, if you're someone that lives in a peaceful state, most of the time you probably know pretty quickly the things that are going to create anxiety or disrupt, your naturally peaceful nature. Like, I'm a pretty calm person. I don't do a lot of drama. So it's very obvious when I get into a place where my heart hurts and I'm not feeling peaceful. Okay, it's kind of a funky little grayish purple, but we're gonna go with it. And I'm gonna do a yellow peace sign on top of this. And then we're going to put our cardinal on there to represent both that connection to peace and how nature is one of those things that really amplifies peace for me. But before I do that, I want to clean up my palette a little bit. And I'm wondering if I usually have a journal or some scrap paper or something sitting around that I can add that paint to. So let's get some of that on here. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I want to use up this paint before it dries. In the winter here in Colorado, the air is incredibly dry and paint dries so fast, especially with the heater on. And so I'm mindful of not wasting paint. And I love how fast it dries as a mixed media artist because it allows me to create layers pretty quickly. All right, so we want to use up some of this paint. What else brings you peace? So swinging, craft room. Sometimes it's a place. Sometimes it's an activity. Okay, so what I'm not wanting is to set this pretty page here down in that wet paint. So I'm just going to get a piece of clean paper underneath there. And I am going to grab a journal. Oh, I feel very pokey this morning, sort of slow to wake up. Hiking, 100%. Hiking, definitely. All right, this was my gratitude journal from last month, and it still has some blank pages in it, and even has a page that still has some paint. And some scrappy bits of other things. So I'm just going to clean off this brush. I'm also doing this because I don't want to stick the brush with all that much paint on it in my water. I try to be mindful of not putting too much paint down the sink. And this part is really fun for me. Like when I am feeling anxious, I have found that painting out some of that energy onto the page, especially working on a larger piece of paper or canvas, that it becomes this really wonderful energetic expression and a way to move energy out of my body. So the reason that we often linger in states of worry, anxiety, overwhelm is because we're not taught ever how to release emotions. All of our feelings are welcome, they're useful, they're valuable, and it's important that we understand that if we simply, for me, oftentimes it just is a matter of saying out loud to my husband, I'm feeling really anxious right now, or I'm really worried about this, or I'm upset about that. And it can be that simple to verbally express, but sometimes some of those emotions are a little bit deeper and we need to come up with other ways of expressing them. So big expressive marks, pen, paper, markers, crayons, paint, doesn't matter what the tool is. But one of the things, right, that brings me peace is moving energy that's not peaceful out of my body. Barbara added prayer, tingling, watercolor with water brush. Yeah, music, being on top of a mountain, meditation, right? And I think sometimes we forget when we get caught up in moments that don't feel so peaceful to turn to the things that do bring us peace. For me personally, what I know is that if I just simply get outside and go for a walk, then I can often shift the energy of how I'm feeling. All right, so I'm going to get a peace sign down on this page. Grab a pencil here. Hoping this pencil is going to be shiny enough that I can see it. I'm just using the lid of a jar to draw that circle close enough. And then where did my nice IdentiPen go? One of the other prompts that I am thinking about also that was close to this prompt of what brings you peace is, what do you look for when you're struggling, right? And they kind of go hand in hand. It's like, what kind of support do you look for? And I realize that when life feels disrupted or uncomfortable or challenging in some way, that I tend to go into hermit mode, right? I tend to go into hermit mode and I want to retreat from the world and not reach out and ask for support. And yet I move much more quickly through times of distress or dis-ease by reaching out and asking for help. Like I said, just talking it through with my husband or with a friend. Okay, I'm thinking I'm going to do another circle on the inside here. Oh, for me too, Barbara, that loud bass, right? Yeah, that definitely is anxiety producing. Agreed. Yes. Yeah, amplifies our heartbeat. So I recently went to a live concert with a friend, and that was the first thing I experienced was that loud beat. I really struggled with how it felt in my body because it was so loud. It was a huge arena concert. And I'm like, okay, I'm done going to these concerts. They're too late at night, which I don't enjoy, and they wear my body out, right? They wear my body out. Okay. I don't know why everything seems so extra glary this morning. It took me so long to figure out how to draw a peace sign. It's like the simplest thing in the world, but I always wanted to draw the arms of the peace sign facing upwards until someone pointed out to me that I was drawing them upside down. In this, all of a sudden, I'm having a flashback to some of the fun posters from the 70s with the peace signs and the flowers. Okay, close enough to a peace sign. And I definitely think it's going to need maybe some flowers on that peace sign. I'm going to take some gesso and I'm going to paint the peace sign because I'm going to want to paint that peace sign yellow. And in order to do that, I want to make sure that yellow shows. If I were to paint the yellow directly over that purple, it would just get lost. So I'm going to come in with some gesso. I have learned so many great tips and tricks over the years from my friend Andrea Shebelou, and this was one of them, was when you're working in mixed media layers and you want to create a pop of bright color over a darker color to make it white first. What it's not going to be is perfectly round, so perfectionism can definitely disrupt peace. And I want to thank everybody who wished me well. Oh, yeah, Barbara, take earplugs with you. That was like the saving grace, was having earplugs so it wasn't so completely overwhelming because there's so much about it that is fun. But if you struggle with that, excuse me, that loudness, then definitely recommend wearing earplugs. It didn't I could still hear everything just fine. It just softened it just a little bit, so it wasn't quite so overwhelming. And how fun to go see Rod Stewart. So I want to thank everyone, including you, Barbara, for wishing me well on my talk. So on Friday morning, my live video was about why making art matters and why do we feel so driven as humans to create. And I gave that talk to the Rocky Mountain Weavers Guild in Denver yesterday, which was super fun. It went really well. I don't normally speak a lot with PowerPoints. So the talk part was easy, but the part that it was took me the longest was creating the PowerPoint, but it turned out really well. Such a lovely, lovely group of people. And it helped a ton that I was able to practice a little bit. Okay, so I am really giggling at myself right now because I was talking about doing peace signs upside down, and I had my journal turned this way just for ease of being able to reach it. So now my peace sign is sideways in my journal, and I'm trying to decide if I want to change that up or we're just going to have this be, maybe this whole spread will go this direction. So when I open the book, I'll just remember to turn it this way. So again, just gonna laugh and giggle at myself here. All right, let's get some of our Naples yellow down on the page. So this is a very muted, almost like an ochre yellow. And I love that this page already has so many layers on it, and you can't see all the layers. You can't see what I wrote about. On some class that I was teaching, I don't even remember what it was, somebody was talking about when it came to journaling and especially art journaling, they didn't want people to see what they were writing about. And it's one of the things I love is about planting the seeds of my writing on the page first, and then painting over that. And sometimes it's great when little bits of that show through, and it's not necessary. I know it's there. And I was talking about my process of learning to let go yesterday during the talk and learning to love painting over things. And it was fascinating to watch the looks in the audience, and there were 50, 60 people there, and watch the looks on their faces, the, shock, horror, and the, oh my gosh, I couldn't do that, about letting go of things and being able to paint over. And I think it's been one of the most valuable parts of my creative process. And it contributes to creating peace in my heart because I'm not attached. I'm not attached to outcomes. Okay, so definitely thinking it needs some little flowers and butterflies. And I'm thinking, do I want to draw those? Do I want them to be stickers? I've got some cute little butterflies in my sticker book. And I've got these fun little flower shapes that I've been playing with, but I think this might be too big. Oh, maybe not. That one's definitely too big. And I kind of like just these round little circles. Sometimes just using little masks or stencils like this can offer that little bit of inspiration that we need when we get stuck. And it also allows me to kind of see placement and size of things here as well. But I'm thinking I'm just going to do a couple of just really simple abstract shapes. So I'm going to get some more of this alizarin crimson and a little bit of white. And then this page needs a little bit more color, a little bit more brightness. So I'm going to mix up some pink here and maybe even a little bit of the funky green that these colors make together. And I'm going to add a couple of flowers, and then we're going to have, I think the cardinal is going to sit up on one of the branches of our peace sign here. And at the presentation yesterday, I was talking with one of my former clients who was the one that invited me to speak to the group. And we were talking about our quest for purpose. And it's such a fascinating conversation. And she had been talking to someone about this. Okay, so this needs a little bit more pink on there if we're going to actually see it over all the other colors. And this person and I both had this same sort of knowing that sometimes we confuse purpose with productivity, that we want to feel relevant and useful and like we're creating things that matter in the world. Looking, where do I want one more here? Maybe we'll put one up over here. And purpose comes from within. Purpose is the thing that makes our life feel meaningful. And for me, being at peace is one of my purposes. Eric Maisel speaks often of how we don't just have one life purpose, but that we have many life purposes. And I love that perspective because I think it helps us get freed up from this idea that we have to have one purpose. And when I start to think about what do I want for myself next year, what do I want for the world next year, what makes my life meaningful, I want to be at peace. I want to feel peaceful. So something so simple as looking at this curious question of what brings you peace opens us up to such deeper opportunities for self-reflection. All right, I'm going to get a little green going here. This palette makes the funkiest combination of colors, but that's okay. It's the palette I chose. It's what I'm going with. And as I go, I'm continuing to clean my brush off on this other journal page, which is going to make a beautiful background for something. I love working with a limited palette because it's such a challenge. It's so much simpler to just grab a few colors, right? Right out of the tube. But what starts to make our art original is that sort of custom palette. And I don't think I would want to stick with this palette forever, but I'm having fun with it for this project. And it's going to get me closer to maybe a sense of, well, what is my signature palette? There's certainly colors that I'm drawn to over and over and over again. All right, these colors are kind of fun. So I've got this other page down here. So I'm going to let those flowers dry for a second, and I'm just going to use up a little extra paint on my brush to do a little mark making on this page. Over the years, I've certainly learned what kind of brushes that I love. I really love a flat brush more than a round brush. Okay, using up some of that paint. And I'm going to give these flowers a little bit more detail. And when I think about that desire to see more peace in the world, my personal belief and philosophy is that that has to start within. It has to start within. We have a brand new end of year sale on our Creative Self-Reflection Kit that includes 118 prompts. My favorite specific end of year self-reflection prompts. One of my favorite tools from my midlife Renaissance program that will help you quickly assess exactly where you are in your life. It'll help you set goals for next year. It's got an awesome coloring book of some of my son's beautiful sacred circle designs and two of my favorite classes. One on Zentangle and Zendalas, which are basically creating mandalas with Zentangle patterns, and my class Color Coded Emotions, which is all about understanding the connection between color and emotions. And that bundle is on sale for just $29. And I'm super proud of it, how it came together, how I know it's going to support people, not just right now here at the end of the year, but throughout across time. Good morning, Yvonne. Welcome, welcome early on a Sunday morning. And talking about what brings me peace, we could bring in that question of color. Does your house bring you peace? Does your studio bring you peace? Are you surrounded by colors that are calming? Or are you surrounded by too much clutter, not enough light? I think we finally got enough light in this studio that I already love being down here. Now I love being down here even more. All right, so I'm loving the peace sign, but I'm also loving this little speckled confetti page, which feels joyful and happy and may just stay like that. It doesn't need anything else, or maybe it'll get one image added to it, but sometimes just making marks on the page feels like peace, right? It's a meditation. It's a meditation. Okay, I'm going to get a little touch of white on these flowers, brighten them up a little bit, and then we're going to add our cardinal and see how our cardinal looks. Brush is a little wetter than I want it to be. So Yvonne, our topic of conversation this morning is what brings you peace? What brings you peace? I'm wanting to create a little more dimension in these flowers as well. So I'm going to see if I can change up that green a little bit. I might need to add a little bit of black to it just to see if we can change the tone of that. Thank you, Yvonne. I so appreciate you. And just like I did last year on New Year's Day, I am going to do a early morning painting in your PJs, painting marathon session. So I'll be here for a couple of hours, and I think I want to do a word of the year project. A little bit about helping you pick your word of the year, but helping you create a page in your journal to honor the word of the year. Quiet mornings with hot tea, getting creative, beautiful. All right, that's what it needed, was just that little bit of extra dimension. Me too. I got to get some little bit clearer vision around it, but it'll come together for sure. And since I'm not someone, who's going to stay up to midnight and drink lots of champagne the night before, I will be up at my usual wee hours of the morning, ready to paint. Come back. There. All right. Maybe Mr. Cardinal's going to sit down here so we can still just see that peace sign. I love it, Blanca. Peace and love, man. That's awesome. My daughter's partner, his parents are a little bit older than us, and they were definitely 70s hippies, so they absolutely have that peace and love vibe also. Okay, so I think I want to get rid of that little stem there. I just want to see maybe a little more of that peace sign, so maybe we'll have... The nice thing about peel and stick stickers is that I can place him down and move him around a little bit. Oh, I kind of like him over here. Okay, I'm going to get those flowers dry so I'm not smushing him down in that wet paint. And then I'm going to put him on the page. Over the years, oh, it says peace, love, and chicken grease. That's hilarious. Over the years, I've loved a lot of projects, and over this past year, I've loved a lot of the projects I've done here on Painting in Your PJs, but I think this little circle journal is turning out to be one of my favorites. Okay, I'm committed now. Got some glue stick on him. And I think I want to take a little bit of the green and put some green leaves here that are more the same color green. Maybe even the same shape. So you can take a sticker like this and integrate it with your page just by painting over the top a little bit. So I don't have to change him up a bunch. But I want to make sure that color is incorporated, right? That color is incorporated a little bit. All right. I'm thinking maybe a little bit of the bright blue with a little bit of mark making in the background, and then this one will be complete. Yes, a marathon on New Year's Day. A marathon on New Year's Day. Last year I did 4 different paintings. I painted small and painted on them all at once. That was super fun. I think we did it on Zoom though last year. Maybe I did it on YouTube. I can't remember. Maybe someone else will remember. It's funny, I'm making these little marks and I'm like, oh, one of the other things that brings me peace are rainy days. The solitude and quiet of rainy days. But last year we had such a gray week that I was missing my sunshine. But that's kind of what the those little blue marks are reminding me of, is maybe there's a little energy moving, a little rain falling. Okay, only half of it. Well, no, I'm gonna bring some of that blue a little bit over here. Yes, the smell of rain. Absolutely. Or now that I live in Colorado, snow. The solitude and the quiet, like rain can be very loud here, um, but snow is often silent, right? And I think one of the things that brings me peace is that snow. Okay, I'm really loving these little blue marks. They feel fun to make, and it feels weird not to have them everywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and add them. And then the page needs maybe just a little bit more white. I really like the white around our cardinal here. The little bit of white in our flowers needs to be brought back here, but maybe some tiny little bits of white on here as well. I always think, oh, this is so fast. It's gonna like come together really quickly and I'm gonna be done. And then, it's an hour later and here I am still putting those finishing touches on it. And I'm grateful to have the hour. I'm going to use the end of my paintbrush. So the end of your paintbrush is a great tool for making dots and marks on your page. So we're going to get a little bit of that rain, a little bit of that snow. And that paint's a little bit thick for making dots. It's amazing how those little pops of white just brighten up the whole page. Doesn't take a lot of them. I can get carried away with the mark making because it's fun. Okay, time to stop. That's enough. All right, so a really sweet, simple little page to represent what brings me peace. What brings me peace? I love it. Okay, so as I'm looking at it, I'm looking at where it's so funny when I look at it on my camera screen, I see different things than when I see it on the just looking at it on the surface. I saw where I had missed, there was a gap there in that blue that was noticeable on the screen, but not so much when I was looking right down on it. So it just didn't quite feel finished there. And I'm also thinking that maybe I want to outline the peace sign in black. Yeah, Barbara is so true, right? I mean, there's a reason why we all enjoy hanging out here together because we are like-minded. All right, I'm going to let this dry completely because when it dries completely and I walk away from it for a while, I might see it differently. But I'm also looking at this going, I'm going to take a picture of it. I've showed you guys this trick before, and I want to get my phone to open. I want to look at it in black and white and to see if there's enough contrast in the picture. And notice how the cardinal has some nice contrast, but there's a lot of monochromatic happening. Like there's not a lot of the flowers aren't really standing out. So I'm thinking it could still maybe need some black outlines or a little more contrast on the page to focus here a little bit. But it needs to dry first because I'm wanting to get in there right now with my Stabilo Marks All, but I know some of that paint is still wet. But I know if I just come in and darken things up just a little bit, I'm going to get some nice contrast. But I'm going to step away from it because otherwise I'm going to mess it up and then I'm going to be annoyed with myself. So it's at a happy place for the moment. So our prompt for today was, what brings me peace? Connection to nature is one of the things that brings me peace. And may you enjoy a peaceful rest of your day as well. I'll see you guys all right back here tomorrow morning. Have a peaceful rest of your day. Bye bye, everybody.